Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, folks. Sorry for the late arrival. Um, I was just kind of wrapped up in the news that's been kind of going on, in the, I guess, the VTuber community. The one that, I don't mind, trying to join from time to time, although uh, it's been my experience that I often get shut out from the VTuber community because of people are going, "Hey, VTubers only." It's like I'm not a VTuber, but I still want to join you guys. What the heck? But um, but hey, I try to support what streamers I can. Obviously, I can't support them all because there's way too many streamers out there. Let's face it, there, folks. We're only human. We can't, you know, watch everybody. So you know, it is what it is. But if you are anywhere in the YouTube sphere and the VTuber sphere and stuff like that, obviously there's been a lot of controversy with over the past 24 hours or so. Yeah, well, I mean, there's it's kind of pretty much hit the head like within the last 24 hours. There's been a lot of problems with that particular in one particular corporation, and it really got it really blew up within the past 24 hours, and there's a lot of people that are not happy. Um, I I don't know what the heck is going on in terms of the internet community in general at this moment in time. It's like, but at the same time, I can also completely understand it too, right? Like, there's been some talks about um, Hoya Lab, screwing over Genshin Impact fans, right? With the whole Lantern Festival, they're basically saying, "Hey, Hoya Lab, you're helping out, your newest game, um, but you're not helping us out in Genshin Impact." It's like, hello, what's going on here? Um, and now there's a particular VTuber company. I will hold off names right now because it's still very heated discussion right at this moment in time. And I um, let's just say that this company has been kind of losing VTubers quite a bit lately. And there's been rumors of a lot of mismanagement, meaning that there was a lot of problems within the company. Basically, people saying that the company hires these managers that might only have like 1 week of training, and they give them like brand new VTubers that's a part of the company. So not only do the managers not know what the heck they're doing, but obviously the new hires won't really know the process of the VTuber company either. So it's just a recipe for disaster right there, right? Um, so um, so yeah, there's been a lot of apparently controversy kind of swirling around that one particular VTuber company. Um, and within the past, what, it's been close to 2 months now, 2, 3 months. Um, there was a um, there was a VTuber that was that apparently wanted to do something special from everything that was being said during that particular time, um, uh, they were trying to do everything that they could to get everything kind of prepped and ready for something that they were planning on releasing, and they weren't getting any support from the company. And so when the time came when she really wanted to release it, the video was, then like privated the day after by the company in question. So now there's like a lot of controversy kind of swirling around it. Now, um, right now there's a bit of like a, you know, company said versus she said kind of situation potentially. I'm not, I was in part of the company, so I don't really know. Okay, so I don't know what was going on there. Okay, the most I can give is my opinion, which, let's face it, is, you know, um, not exactly, um, Mr. Reliable here. I don't have any like inside scoops or anything like that. I don't know the lady in question, nor do I know the company. Um, but um, from everything that was kind of discussed and mentioned and stuff like that, it's not looking really great for the company, to be honest. They say that the one individual violated a lot of their rules, but at the same time, there's been a lot of controversy about the company in question anyway. So I don't know. I don't know I don't know what's going on there. Right now, I am kind of leaning more towards the VTuber side at this point. You know, the scales are, and the scales, in my opinion, are definitely on her side versus the corporate side. I'm just going to put it that way. Okay. So, um, they haven't shown anything from the corporate side to basically counter, the claims that have been coming out recently about everything that's been kind of going on with the VTubers that, they have under their umbrella. So it's just been a bit of controversy lately. So I was, watching a little bit of that. So that's why I'm late. So I apologize for being late. Now, uh, for those of you that are actually here for the Pega, um, uh, what was it? Not yesterday, but the day before, I took the mission test for the system architect. So that's been officially completed there, folks. We're done with the mission for the system architect. Yay! Same with the business architect. So if you're watching right now and you are like, wondering where I'm at in either of those missions, well, they're done. Most if not all of the mission, topics, challenges, so on and so forth, are already on my playlist. So go and check that out. Um, do yourself a favor if you're going for the certification for system architect or business architect. My playlist is already there, ready and waiting for you to just kind of go through, review, follow along if you want to. Discuss the topics. You know, comment sections are open, so you're welcome to go through those topics and just kind of talk about everything there. Um, so, um, if you have questions, feel free to post them. I'll try to answer them if I can. I'm trying to go for my certification as well, so I don't know everything that there is to know about the Pega environment, but I know people that are, and I can always ask them if necessary. Okay, if there's a question that I don't know, I'll ask them. Okay. If you have the answers, like maybe you're a veteran, maybe you're a lead, maybe you're a manager, whatnot, then I welcome you to go through those videos and maybe help me out with some of the questions that I've asked about, or parts that I was like confused as to like what topics they're really talking about, or what exactly they were saying. Because there's been parts where I've found their own questions are countering the information that they presented in the topics themselves. And I've kind of pointed that out to them multiple times, and um, for the most part, they've stayed up to date with me. They've stayed in contact. They replied back to my suggestions and said, okay, this is a good suggestion. Thank you. We'll change it for the latest version, which should be the 23 version, right? So if you go through the 23 version, then you probably will see the changes that I've suggested over time. So if you're even later than that, you'll probably see those suggestions as well. Um, here's some more things that I will say. Okay, first, they do not reinforce your knowledge very well in these missions. Okay, so you're gonna have to do that yourself. Okay. Um, I unfortunately had some difficulties myself during this entire process. Um, because the challenges do not reinforce the previous topics that you've gone through. Okay, they don't reinforce any of those ideals. They don't reinforce any of the information that they provide to you. So when you get to the mission exercise, you're pretty much you know um, at the mercy of what they're going to try to tell you in the mission exercise. And well, uh, as I pointed out in the mission exercise, for example, they outright do not tell you, very critical information that you're going to need to know in order to complete what they want you to complete. Okay. There was one part in part 6 here that where they say, hey, we're going to add this one variable called notes. Nowhere in their description here do they say anything about notes whatsoever. So, um, so in some ways, this mission exercise is really your only avenue to get the information that you need in order to pass their tests that they give. So it's unfortunate that you know they don't even provide you all the information in the description for you to build what they want you to build through the mission exercise, and I feel that that's a really major disservice. Um, and again, because they don't really reinforce, the previous lessons, um, you're pretty much at the mercy of trying to remember everything that you might have done in the low code app builder when you eventually reach the not only the system architect, but the mission test system architect. Um, you know, One of the things that they talk about, for example, that I've hit them, I've like, you know, um, I kind of criticized them on it was the fact that um, they talk about like the four pillars. I forget exactly, which topic they kind of discuss it on. Um, I don't even know if they have it even as a topic right at this moment in time. Um, did I say four pillars? I meant three pillars. They say, the Pega environment has three pillars that they are, they built the entire Pega platform, you know, using the pillars. And as you can see, so far, I have not seen you know, one topic even like, um, addressing the three pillars, even though it's supposed to be pillars. It's supposed to be like the, if this is meant to be um, if these pillars are so essential for the, overall working um, of the Pega environment, you would think that it would be something that they would really address pretty much over and over and over again. Okay, much like the four pillars of um, much like the four pillars of object-oriented programming. You know, when you're addressed with the four pillars of object-oriented programming, you would think that um, if you see it in any kind of programming book, that they would kind of reinforce those four pillars over and over and over again, like saying, "Hey, this is um, part of this one pillar. This is part of that second pillar. So on and so forth, right?" Um, but they don't really like. Here you are. You focus on three core elements or pillars of a great application: microjourneys, personas and channels, and data and interfaces. It They don't really address this that often. Like, you know, like, hey, this topic that we are covering right at this moment in time is going to be covering one, as part of the pillar of microjourneys. Or hey, this particular topic is covering, as part of the pillar for personas and channels or data interfaces. They don't do that, and I feel that that's a disservice. You know, if it's if these are supposed to be core elements or pillars, then they should be like hammering that home every single time. They should be a broken record about it because it is meant to be the core elements, you know. So, but they don't do that. So it's kind of unfortunate along those lines. Um, the challenges that they do, you don't you don't redo the work on that. Okay, like for example, here's the designing that case lifecycle, right? They kind of show you, you know, like step by step on how to, set up stages, set up steps, create views, um, change information and so on and so forth, so you can actually build a, case lifecycle, right? They don't really let you do that too much in the later chapters. You know, they kind of do that for you, and I feel again that's a disservice. They kind of hold your hand, you know. And unfortunately, with them being very specific about how you go about working on said project, it's hard to say, or it's um, there's no real wiggle room in terms of um, what you can and can't do, right? Um, it's basically their way or the highway, and it's don't get me wrong. Obviously there are parts where it's like hey, you want to make sure that you are getting your code clean, efficient, something that can be reusable, so obviously that's important, but at the same time, um, it when you look at their steps here, you're not given any kind of room to make any kind of changes that you might want, right? Like for example, they say, in the name field, enter request type, right? If you change that, if you have a different name in the name field, thinking like maybe, hey, this should have a different name than what they're giving here, which believe me, I've I've not been happy at times with their naming conventions. Um, if you change it and their testing program comes along that particular name and goes, I don't know what this is, so I'm gonna mark it as wrong, then I mean, what are you gonna do, right? Um, so that's why I typically recommend, I've recommended in the past to kind of go through these instances. Okay, start up an instance. Go into the instance, and just do your own kind of work on it. Try to obviously learn the steps that they're kind of giving you here, but make your own stuff. Build your own kind of application with it. These instances will stay, from what I understand, for over a week. Okay, so you have a week to play around with these instances as much as you want to. So you can just kind of go in here, you know, enter in their username and password to actually access their system. Actually, hold on, it's my town. Um, and just make your own. Use the instance to kind of do your own kind of work. Okay. Use their challenge as an example and keep on working on it, after the fact, because they're not going to help you. Just giving you a heads up on this, okay? They're not going to help you in kind of reinforcing what you previously learned, okay? So, um, you know, the you know, so whenever I see the description saying, or the scenario saying something along the lines of, um, one of the leads has already programmed out, this particular, you know, um, case type, then it's like, well, you're kind of doing the disservice to the programmer, right? Um, you're not helping them learn from previous examples. You know, you should do something along the lines of, hey, um, we're gonna need you to do, um, we're gonna need you to build a process named such and such with, you know, these, these following steps with these following parameters, information, and stuff like that to follow the rest of the course. And leave it at that, you know? Like, hey, um, we need you to build, you know, you know, basically, um, have um, have the developers have the people that are kind of working on this, you know, build something. Like for example, notice how they say, in the App Studio navigation pane, click case types and service request. This is the very first. This is the very first that um they're introducing the case lifecycle, and they're not even allowing you to even start up the case lifecycle yourself for the very first time. They're not even saying, hey, um, go to case types, click new, so you can build service request. They don't do that. Um, if you click on service request here, okay, obviously it will, the instance won't show you much, but it's not gonna be um, you know, you're not building it yourself initially, you know. Now, again, the this particular case type is, you know, bare bones, okay? It won't, obviously when it does eventually load in, you won't see much here, right? You know, it won't give you a whole lot, okay? As you can see. There's no additional stages, there's no additional steps, no personas, no data interfaces, and so on and so forth. So um, you know, so the so it obviously it's really bare bones. Okay, you are pretty much starting out from scratch here. Matter of fact, we're just going to go ahead and do that right now. We're just going to go ahead and click on new because we should be able to do that. At least I believe we can. We'll see. And we'll just kind of create our own one, right? So let's just kind of call it you know banking app, okay? And advanced, anything else? Um, I mean, we have standard and questionnaire. Not quite sure what either one of those are all about. I'm assuming questionnaire is something along the lines of you're just kind of doing it for like a polling reason or something like that. You're setting up the case type to ask the users for answers to your questions, and then you get back the data or something like that, and then you might be able to build a report off of that, right? But um, again, I'm not sure. They don't really go over this. Last I knew, if I remember correctly, they don't go over standard or questionnaire. Um, yep. Yeah. So there's nothing there. Um, Actually, hold on. Before I do that, let me open up another tab here, and I'm gonna search Pega Academy for, you know, questionnaire, right? Let me just kind of take that, go here, put that in, and let's just kind of do a search for it, right? Well, that really didn't help. Um, um, maybe it's under here a little bit. Not quite. I mean, don't get me wrong, the, having an automation chip that handles, or that does questionnaires is probably like the main ingredient for the overall stage for a questionnaire case type, but it doesn't necessarily, you know, like fully address that either. Um, Here, let's see. Questionnaire case type. Let me kind of try to narrow it down a little bit more. Let's see what they have to say about that. Um, hmm, I don't know what this module is all about. Seems a little weird to um, okay. Um, it's not exactly what I'm looking for there. Um, let's see. I don't know. Let's see. Aha. So this one in particular creates a questionnaire. So that's interesting. Um, I wonder. I wonder where this particular challenge is um, in terms of missions. Hmm. Creating an assessment. Wait, what? Um. Oh, I think I messed up the spelling of that. Sorry. Stop putting the. Oh my god. Alright. There's that. It's not really showing like the types of missions though. Let's see. Let me click on mission here and see what exactly are they. Oh my God. Okay. Pega lead system architect readiness assessment, huh? Okay, well, uh, um, where's the topics? Where's the where's the challenges? Where's the information about this? It's just a test there, folks. And it's not even giving me the number of questions here either. Oh boy. um, but the reason why I'm trying to find this is because it's like, um, you might need to be asked to build a questionnaire in the future, and so um, so you might not have the challenge isn't even there. I mean, I'm trying to look for the exact, creating an assessment challenge, you know, and these missions, and they're not coming up, or at least I have not seen that particular challenge anywhere in these missions so far, and that's um, a bit weird. Just saying, you know, like I give the exact challenge, you know, and I have yet to see one mission so far that is even addressing that particular challenge, like at all. So yeah, okay. Um, but still, it's one of those things where it's like, um, the fact that they don't really, like, you know, these are the things that um they skip a lot of information on you. Okay, and obviously, if you are trying to get some um, if you're trying to get like a lot of good, helpful information um, to be able to be useful on the job, you're gonna need to kind of do this kind of thing, um, in your own time. So, just kind of, if you're, um, if you are trying to figure this out for yourself, then well, you're in some ways kind of are by yourself. Um, so the the missions, the topics, um, all this, um, all it can only take you so far. Okay. Um, so um, I'm kind of telling myself this as well. By the way, you know, I'm at times I don't often I don't always follow my own advice at times. So um, it's nice when you have someone to kind of help you, to kind of back you up and be support. But obviously, not everybody can have that. Um, mentorship is something that I advocate a lot when it comes to business. Um, but you know, um, that hasn't really been, or at least I haven't, I haven't really seen it. Um, I saw it when I like first got into the job market. You know, um, you know, I had a trainer at, well, not so much at Carl's Jr. a little bit, but not much. I had a trainer at McDonald's. Someone that would, join me for a couple days while I was like working there, kind of teach me the ropes of it, tell me like, how, what's the best method of going about, putting everything together, you know, uh, dishing up fries, so on and so forth, right? But that obviously, um, you know, I don't know if they still have that or not. I kind of hope that they do, but you know, nowadays I kind of wonder. Um, you know, Worked at Walmart for a little bit. Got trained there. And how to go about doing things, and you had someone kind of looking over your shoulder for a little while, so they understood that you could actually do the work, which is perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable. Okay, if you're like new to a job, you should expect to have someone kind of looking over your shoulder initially. Especially if you're brand new to the workload, right? Perfectly reasonable. If you're joining a company for the first time and you're like trying to do code for them, I would imagine that your code is going to be reviewed every single time, by your lead, by your manager, to make sure that your code is up to their standards. And one would hope that if it's not up to their standards, that they would teach you why and how to change. Um, Now, there might be points where you might not necessarily agree on that, you know, like maybe they have really bad standards that they might need to fix. But you're gonna have to like show them why it's bad at times. I remember, you know, my last job, but at my previous job, I was telling, you know, my manager and her manager, um, that the, uh, you know, that I was getting, one, uh, I was typically getting one work order at a time, right? And I showed that the work order that I got could not be completed by itself in the 2 hours that they expected it to be completed. You know, I literally showed the manager's manager that it could not be completed in 2 hours by itself. You know, because there was points in the process that I was basically sitting there twiddling my thumbs. It was processing work on the computer, and there wasn't a damn thing that I could do about it. I told him like, hey, at this point in time, I go up and set up the machine and get it prepped for work, right? But that doesn't take very long. Doesn't take very long at all to kind of try to set up a machine. Try to find the machine to prep and get ready and stuff like that. So that's not really that big of a deal normally, right? So I'm waiting for like good 30 to an hour long, just waiting for the computer to kind of handle processing. And I was like, on all this time, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, and there's not a damn thing that I can do about it. And all the while, if you look at other workers, they have other things that they are doing to pass that, they're you know taking that hours, you know, while I'm sitting there twiddling my thumb because I don't have any additional work to do, other workers on the team had additional work that they were doing, and they were kind of filling in that hour to do other things. You know, they weren't idle, and I was telling them, this is the reason why I can't turn this in in the 2 hours that they give me, because it's impossible for me to get it done in the 2 hours that they give me. So I showed it to him, and he understood. Um, so yeah. Um, my manager, however, yeah, that's another thing. Um, so um, so if there's a problem in your workload, if there's a problem that you can clearly show that there's a problem with like the workflow, and you can show like, hey, no, this does indeed take longer than what you're expecting, then show that to them, prove that to them. Otherwise, they're going to continue to assume that you're being super lazy. It's like, okay, you know, um, and it's kind of unfortunate that it kind of comes to that in certain cases. People will assume like, oh my God, you must be super lazy because this, back in my day we were able to get this all done and stuff like that. And it's like, are you sure about that? You say that we can do this in 2 hours, but clearly, as I've proven, it does not. You know, I showed that, hey, you know, my previous job, or not my last job, but the one before, I showed that the workload that they were giving me, that they said that I could do in 2 hours, I showed that one of those work orders could only be done 3 hours tops. You know, if I did not have any additional work. If it was my only work order, I could only do it in 3 hours, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. Okay, I needed additional work in order to make it seem like it was 2 hours. Okay, because obviously there was time where I was like, I'm sitting around doing nothing right at this moment in time. There's not a damn thing I can do about it. They're not giving me any additional work. They're not giving me any additional work orders to work on it. So, you know, um, so you have to show them. You have to like sit them down and say, you know, here's what we're doing. here's what here's where we're going with, kind of thing. So, um, now some managers might understand that. Okay. Uh, one of the things that I like to see from time to time is XKCD. And one of the comics was about, two programmers, you know, um, fighting in the office with, little fake swords, kind of having a little bit of fun. And their manager's going, "What are you doing? Why aren't you at your desk?" And one of them was like, "Compiling." And they're like, "Oh, okay, carry on," because they knew that it would that that what they just mentioned was taking forever. So um, that to me is a great manager. I mean, it's like you know they understood that the work that they were doing wasn't for one thing, wasn't easy. So obviously you need time to kind of blow off steam from time to time, right? Especially if you're in programming, there might be days where your brain just gets absolutely fried, right? You're using your noggin so much that, you might come into office and you're like, uh, because you might have had an entire rough week or something like that. Like you might have had Monday through Thursday of, you know, building algorithm, building code over and over and over and over again. You racking your brains to try to, solve, some really complex issues, trying to figure out like, like maybe you're having some really hidden bugs that are just absolutely trying to drain your mentality about, what you can do, right? And so on Friday, you might just be like a downright zombie. And if a manager doesn't understand that, then have they coded before? you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, um, um, so it's one of those things where you're gonna need to put in some work on this, okay? Now I'm gonna kind of wrap things up here real quick. This is just kind of meant to like re-highlight everything that we've kind of done a little bit. Um, I think one of the things that I could probably do here is let's go through some of the questions in the system architect again, and um, let's analyze these a little bit more. Okay. It doesn't matter if I pass them or not. Let's kind of really analyze these, right? So, because unfortunately the ending of the test, it doesn't give you all the topics on this, and I feel that that's quite unfortunate about that. So, um, now you can use field values to localize blank and blank, right? Um, So, if I'm not mistaken, that's what? Short descriptions and instruction text? Yeah, okay. So, field values are used to localize short descriptions under 64 characters. Field values, oh my God. Mm, that gives me nothing here. Okay. So, instead of, doing this, back to Um, let's go back to System Architect here and let us look for. Um, hmm, Problem is that it doesn't give you the topic question concerning this. Probably localization, which was something that was kind of discussed later. Field values, most likely. Um, no, that doesn't seem like it's enough. Um, let's see, maybe localizing application content. Okay. To ensure that you design your application for localization, create field value rules for capturing labels and notes, paragraph rules for instructions and messages, and correspondence rules for emails and other correspondence. Okay, and that's why it's like, you know, when I look at this, it's like, hey, you're talking about, correspondence and paragraph rules here, and that's what these two are all about. So that's why it's like, I, um, but as you can see, they're talking about creating field value rules for capturing labels and notes. They're talking about paragraph rules for instruction and messages and correspondence rules for emails and other correspondence. Okay, so field value rules are separate than paragraph rules and correspondence rules, right? So, um, so as soon as you see you can use field values to localize, you should automatically know that field values is a rule. Okay, so as soon as you see that, then it doesn't really make sense that you see paragraph rules along with field value rules, right? They don't state it outright, field value rules, but obviously we'll need to try to remember that when we get to the certification, right? So, and while they don't give correspondence rule here, they say correspondence text, which again, it's kind of irritating that they do that, but as you can see, correspondence rules here, are talking about other correspondence, so correspondence text falls into that, um, falls under that umbrella, right? So, um, I believe there was like a better, um, yeah, they don't really show, um, they don't really show like a good graph of it or something like that. So you define field value rules for those rule types that use labels and other text strings under 64 characters. That's basically what they're kind of talking about here. You know, under 64 characters, under 64 characters. Um, but I mean, you shouldn't necessarily, in my opinion, I don't think you should really uh, hold to that kind of information overall. Like, um, don't necessarily like potentially hold on to like it has to be under 64 characters. Kind of remember the fact that you have field value as a rule, and that's different than correspondence rule and paragraph rule. Okay, just try to remember that. Okay, remember those different type of rules versus the fact that they're under 64 characters. That I mean, sure, this might be that might still be asked. Okay, bear in mind. Okay, like let's say that you say in that they change up the question a little bit. Like they say, um, which rule um, matches up with a short description under 64 characters? And they give you, field value, paragraph, or correspondence rules. Then you're going to have to understand that field values falls in that category. Okay. So if they say that it's over 64 characters, then well, good luck with that. um, then you might, be asking, hey, paragraphs can be longer than 64 characters, and correspondence might be over 64 characters. So, um, um, okay, what about correspondence rules there, guys? So, um, so that's why it's like, um, the, you know, when I say don't worry about trying to memorize the questions because you won't see these questions on the certification. Okay. Do not consider it as something that you will be able to determine, that you'll be able to go, oh yeah, there you go, there's new information and stuff like that, or this information is something that you've seen before on the certification. Oh yeah, you'll be able to, you'll see this on the certification. No, no, just don't. So, um, you're just gonna need to know, like, what, um, uh, make sure that you read through the question properly because the certification might be very tricky on their wording. Bear in mind. Okay. For example, in that previous question, where they said, under 64, well, they could change under to over, right? So if you like kind of glance over it and you're like going, oh, okay, what rule is, over 64, but you read it as under, then you're gonna say, oh yeah, that's field values, no problem, when in fact it's actually paragraph rules. So make sure that you read these questions, completely. Otherwise you're gonna, you have the potential of getting them wrong. So, um, now again, I do kind of wish that they had um, the like the topics, the case types, something, you know, here showing like where the information is coming from so that you can actually like refer back to them. But it doesn't do that. So, um, so you're gonna have to kind of do that kind of work yourself. So, um, okay. So on a personal insurance division, the goal and deadline dates are assigned to each case. For insurance claim cases, stakeholders want to override the default goal date but maintain the default deadline date. Which two configuration steps do you take to meet this requirement? So, um, hmm. At no point are they really like addressing um, are they really addressing like where the goal and deadline tab is in that question? Um, Here, I'm gonna see about trying to create like a brand new case type here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about on this. If it goes through, we'll see. Um, but you know, select the call superclass data transform option in each of the case type data transforms. Um, I mean, you wouldn't need the data transforms for deadline dates, so this shouldn't matter at all. In the claims data transform for each case type, configure and update page action, then set the goal date value. I mean, that seems like a reasonable um, option there. Select the call superclass data transform option in the claims data transform, and then clear the option in the parent data transform. Why? Again, that's not necessarily dealing with the goal date or deadline date. So I'm assuming that it's these two, which apparently I was wrong on those. So you use the call superclass data transform option in the case type data transforms to overwrite values from the parent data transform. Okay, so they're basically telling you the answer here. um, in this particular case, which is unfortunate. Um, so you know, so they'd probably be wanting you to select that one. Um, In the personal insurance division, the goal and deadline dates are assigned to each case. For insurance claims cases, stakeholders want to override the default goal date but maintain a default deadline date. What does this have to do with anything that they're even talking about here? And I don't really see the need for this, to be honest. I'm not quite sure why this even matters in this particular case or in this particular example. Maybe I'm just missing something here. Um, in the personal insurance division, okay, the goal and deadline dates are assigned to each case. Okay, that's fine. You're setting, you're putting, you as the user have said, insurance, you're putting in a claim that's saying like, hey, I'm having some difficulty, like maybe there was flooding or something like that. You guys need to come help me fix this house, blah blah blah, right? Um, so a goal and deadline date are kind of set for the case for people to kind of review and try to help out me the user, right? One would figure. So this makes sense, right? For insurance claims cases, stakeholders want to override the default goal date but maintain the default deadline date. Okay. Um, uh, okay, so they're basically saying, hey, maybe some insurance claims might have um, might need a little bit more time on trying to set everything kind of up, right? You might have like a larger insurance claim than what they were kind of expecting, right? Like maybe you have a lot more um, like furniture or something like that, that's kind of covered under that umbrella, insurance umbrella and stuff like that, right? So, they might need, some more time on the goal date to make sure that everything's processed. Like maybe there's like a major disaster in their area and they have like a lot of claims going on at that particular time, so they're basically saying, hey, we can't necessarily get everything done by the default goal, so we're gonna kind of push it back a little bit longer. Um, but here's the thing: what what's the point on either one of those two scenarios that you have to deal with data transforms? What does this have anything to do with what they're kind of talking about here? I'm having a little bit of a problem with that right at this moment in time. You know, um, and as it is anyway, you wouldn't really want to even use a data transform to begin with anyway, right? Like, you know, what you can do is just go to, your particular step here, or maybe it's stage. Stage, is it the process? I forget exactly which one. Ah, there it is. Goal and deadline. Service level agreement. Custom SLA. Now you have goal and deadline. So why aren't these being used here? You know, why is data transforms even being discussed in this when you're already talking about default goal date and default deadline date? That's part of the SLA. So what's going on there? You know, they're not even using their own system in this particular case. They're kind of putting the dates down as some some type of variables in here, and that's totally ignoring their service level agreement side of things. I don't know. Well, we're just gonna go ahead and close on down here. I'm gonna go and switch on over to um, the next part of our stream here. So, for those of you that are still here for the Pega certification studies, you know, I want to encourage you to keep on working at it, keep on studying on it. Um, we're going to be continuing to study um, the Pega and the Pega system overall. Try to figure out what the heck they're trying to do in this at times. Try to figure out what they're even talking about. Um, Try to make heads or tails of what they're trying to go for here, and hope that we can learn enough so that when we do go for the certification test, then we will pass with flying colors. But for those of you that are still, putting in that effort towards that, keep on going. Keep on looking at, my topics that I've covered overall, since I started this. Um, you know, do yourself a favor and keep on working at that goal to reach that certification status. So, but that's going to be it for this particular video of the Pega certification. Obviously, not we're no longer covering like specific topics at this point. We're now going into very specific details about what we're covering, why we're covering it, and we need to learn, you know, we need to kind of analyze the questions to understand why they're putting those answers down. Like for example, you know, like right now I'm looking at this and going, what's the point of them doing this for this particular question? It doesn't really make any sense to me why they're even addressing the fact that they're trying to call data transforms, superclasses, and so on and so forth when they could use a standard SLA for it. It doesn't make any sense to me why they're even uh, worried about that, right? Um, but it might be something that they've just kind of built into their system. Okay, maybe SLAs was never something that they had when they first designed the system. Okay, so it's just something that you might need to just kind of understand and deal with at that point, right? So, um, so it might not necessarily be just the fact that you need to understand the questions. Sometimes you might need to understand the answers too. Okay. And we'll try to go through that a little bit more in the coming days, coming weeks, while we're prepping ourselves for the certification. Okay. And I'm going to be doing the exact same thing myself. I'm going to prep myself for the certification. So do yourself a favor, keep on studying these questions, keep on studying these topics, mock exams, so on and so forth. Get yourself prepared because, you know, if you're at this particular stage, you're going to need to know as much as you can when you try to take that certification test. So, I'm not going to sign up for a certification test yet. There's a lot for me to kind of do in real life right now before I try to take it myself. But just bear in mind that that's my goal, and we'll try to get that. So, but that's where we're going to go ahead and end today's session. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll catch you next time. But until then, take care. Have a good night. Stay healthy. Stay safe. I'll catch you strangers next time.